right, President Obama says smoking a joint is just like drinking a beer. Is this another sign that marijuana could soon be legal? That's coming up later. But first, it's time to let it rip about being black at the University of Michigan.
Yeah, after a Twitter campaign that's gone viral, U of M's Black Student Union has created a list of demands they want the school to respond to, and they've given them until tomorrow to do it. And with us are Geraldine Gaines and Robert Greenfield. She is the secretary and he's the treasurer of Michigan's Black Student Union.
And also with us is Robbie Sauvé. He's a journalist who's written for the Daily Caller and appeared on Fox News Channel. He thinks some of the demands are unconstitutional. We'll get to that in just a moment. All right, first, let me get those two. You met with the provost and the powers that be at the University of Michigan regarding your demands, such as you want enrollment increased to 10%, you want more money for the Black Student Organization, affordable housing, more diversity taught at the school. What did you come up with on Friday?
So the meetings on Friday were essentially a gauge meeting. Provost Pollock and Vice President Royster were very receptive to a lot of the initiatives that we're trying to push forward at the University of Michigan. However, some of them do take processes regarding Prop 2, and others, there's checks and balances that need to be made in terms of being financially responsible for the university and allocating resources that you know are going to be utilized well within not just the black community, but a lot of marginalized communities.
Can we get a little more specific? I mean, and this is the first time you're really speaking out after this meeting. One of the lists of the demands, emergency scholarships for black students. Is that something that the university guaranteed for you?
They did not necessarily guarantee the emergency scholarships. They said that there are already available scholarships that the University of Michigan provides, but it's just making people aware of the scholarships and, you know, knowing where they are and how much money there is in the funds for them. So they said that they can't really specify that they're giving them to black students, but to all students. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, what is the biggest issue that, I mean, this started off as a Twitter campaign, really, and it just went viral. What was the main issue that you really feel when you're on the campus at U of M?
I think there's a lot of cultural misappropriations and a lot of microaggressions that black students and Hispanic students, Native American students have to deal with on a day-to-day basis that are both very inappropriate within the classroom, but also
like what? Can you explain maybe something?
So certain microaggressions would be well, the common argument that, you know, you say the N-word, why can't I? Things like that. When you're in a academic environment and you're doing, you know, study teams on certain projects, the ability to overlook certain students because of their cultural background.
Let's bring Robbie into this mix over here. What's wrong with that? I mean, what I'm hearing is black students, they feel stereotyped. That's what I'm kind of hearing. What's wrong with that?
And of course that's awful, and they shouldn't feel that way, and that shouldn't be happening on the campus. But I have a hard time believing it is such a serious problem on the campus when, I mean, most of the student body, most of the professors, the faculty, I mean, they met with the administration, and they agree with them. They've always agreed with them, and they want to meet their demands the best they can, even when they can't legally do it. So I have a hard time believing that they're the people on campus who feel out of place, who are not welcome, when everyone agrees with them on campus.
Geraldine, can you talk about what do you say to the people who believe some of your demands are really just asking for special treatment for black people? Can you explain, or what do you think about that when people say
that? And the scholarship thing isn't it?
I don't think that we're asking for special treatment. I think we're asking for equality. I think we're asking for more representation on campus. I mean, it is kind of difficult sometimes when you walk into a classroom and you're the only black child in the classroom of 300 students.
But whose fault is that? It's 4-point-something%.
Right.
You want to up the admissions to 10%. Does that mean that roughly 5% qualified people would have to be out of there, so 5% less black people would be in?
No, that's not at all what we're asking
and I actually like to comment. I've been waiting for this. So actually,
I think people are misunderstanding this.
So
we really do need
a huge part part in terms of misinformation about affirmative action is that qualifications has always been something that has been mandated. And in fact, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act says that you cannot wholly or in part discriminate by race or gender. That means if anybody who utilized affirmative action were to come in, they would have to be of equal qualification or more than to come into that school.
So what you're saying then is the University of Michigan is deliberately not taking about 5% of black people. You have to say that. I mean, it would make sense.
I mean, this used to be the case before the court intervened. I mean, you would get more points towards admission for minority status than for having like a perfect test score. And the court has limited how you can use race to admit people, and it's going to further limit it after the court case that's before the court now.
Isn't it?
Well, no,
right, and you can't do that.
Well, no, but it's always been limited. That's the thing. That's the misinformation I'm talking about. Is that Executive Order 11246 states within collegiate recruitment the same thing that Title VII, the Civil Rights Act, says, that in fact you can't do that, and that the court cases that we've had that have been overturned in terms of admissions were those special cases in which that was done and was wrong. Now, in terms of Michigan trends in recruitment, actually, black enrollment has been the most decreasing slope out of all the recruitment and enrolled classes at the University of Michigan. It's at 4.6 now, but however, when you have an uptrending slope in terms of black enrollment, that means 19 freshmen coming into the collegiate atmosphere, that's actually been increasing, even with the exception of the implementation of Prop 2 during 2006. In contrast, Michigan and Michigan State have had the opposite trend, which makes no sense, actually, because if you have the whole states trending upward in terms of black collegiate freshmen.
Well, maybe Michigan just has to correct for the fact that it was admitting people for years based on their race instead of merit, and now its ability to do that was limited because of the ballot initiative.
But you would agree that diversity is, the courts would say, a compelling governmental interest, but you would want diversity.
Well, all diversity, not just race diversity. I mean, diversity of views, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of economic.
Why not race? Why shouldn't race be a goal of a university?
Race is a factor that you have no control over. It's like your eye color or your hair color.
They want about another 5%.
I mean, an individual has no choice over their race. So an individual's views and how they've responded to the challenges their race has presented for them is far more interesting. The fact that they're brown-eyed or blue-eyed or blonde-haired or left-handed doesn't really, I mean, it's not something you picked. So I don't see why that should be an interest that the university consider. I mean, should it have more tall people? Should it have more? And we understand this on like the basketball team or the football team, that we don't want some sort of racial scheme. We just want whoever the best players are.
Well, I think when you say it that way, then you're getting matters of assimilation in terms of, you know, there's intellectual diversity, of course, and I can understand that.
And the university doesn't have that.
But at the same time, well, I would say that they do. Even within the white majority that they have, I would say that there's plenty of intellectual diversity, because then you're really disassociating one's own personality and one's beliefs from.
Well, what if, for instance, non-liberal students said, we want an increased percentage representation on campus and we demand this, and if our demands met, we're going to take physical action? I mean, the university would not stand by them.
Let's get to this, Geraldine, right here. You guys set a deadline tomorrow, action, or there was a threat of physical action if your demands are not met. What does that mean?
I would not say it was a threat of physical action. We just stated that we're going to, you know, partake in physical action. I think that's where a lot of people, you know, are confused, is that it wasn't a threat. It's not something, it's not going to be something
Well, what are you
going
to do if your demands are not met?
We would like to keep that ambiguous at this time and let the university be surprised.
But is it violent?
No,
I mean, are you going to have,
not.
I mean,
But when you hear physical action,
that's a fighting words, aren't they?
I disagree with that.
Physical action, and we've talked about this a lot, that there was a misunderstanding within the terminology used. However, I think there's a racialized connotation associated with physical action, and again, not just being black, but just being a minority. I think there are many different ways that you can use physical action that sound a lot more peaceful, a lot more
Well, I think there's been a lot of stuff going on in college campuses that perhaps when you hear physical action, that does spark a little bit of fear in people, and that might be half the problem. But maybe perhaps what you're talking about is sit-ins, demonstrations, something to show back maybe what they did back in the day to prove a point or to push for what they may or may not need.
Yes, Rob, you don't have a problem with this when more diversity classes being taught to you? That's not a problem for you, is it?
With more what?
Diversity classes. They want more diversity classes being taught. That's okay with you, isn't it?
I guess they have a lot of them already. I don't oppose it.
They want more.
okay, they want more, and they can make their demand. I'm not saying they shouldn't, ask for things. I think all student groups should advocate and be activists for the causes they believe in, but the university stands behind their group entirely. So they're not these scrappy outsiders trying to, overthrow the system. I mean, everyone agrees with them, so I don't buy into their narrative.
Well, certainly when you guys meet tomorrow, we'll all be paying close attention to figure out, to find out what the results of this meeting are. We are wishing you certainly the best and that you get what you are hoping for without physical action.
And there's a new president at the University of Michigan, too. Maybe you people ought to sit down with the new president of the university. How about that? That's coming up. All right, thanks a lot for being here. I really appreciate that.